Good morning, mabuhay, and welcome to the Philippines. We'd like to invite the participants to take your seats as our program will commence in 5 minutes. At this stage, we would like to provide everyone with a safety information relative to our venue for today's symposium. This is the Rizal Ballroom. Fire exits are located around the hall. It just might be covered by drapes. Please take a moment to locate the exit nearest to you. In the event of any emergency requiring evacuation, please remain calm. There are dedicated conference management personnel to usher you to the nearest fire exit. For medical emergencies or cases requiring medical attention, a medical team 4-hour standby. Hotel clinic is located at basement 1. Would also like to inform everyone that for today's symposium, there will be no breaks in between sessions. However, coffee and refreshments will be made available to participants throughout our symposium. Once more, there shall be no breaks in between sessions. However, coffee and refreshments will be made available throughout the symposium. Please switch cellular phones and electronic devices to mute or silent mode. Once more, we're asking everyone to please switch cellular phones and electronic devices to mute or silent mode. We ask everyone to please find your seats. Our session begins in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Dreaming, that is all I seem to do. Since I met you, it's dreaming of a warm and soft bed where you could lay your head near mine, and we'll make love and find the answer how to make this fairy tale for two come true. Fairy tale for two come true. Fairy tale for two.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to ask you to take your seats so that we may begin our morning session. Thank you. Once more, we'd like to ask you to take your seats so that we may begin our morning session. Thank you. Mabuhay and a pleasant morning to everyone. Welcome to the Informal Senior Officials Meeting Symposium on APEC 2015 Priorities. To introduce our distinguished speakers, the Honorable Laura Q. Del Rosario, Undersecretary in Economic Relations Department of Foreign Affairs, Republic of the Philippines.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have the honor and privilege to introduce the Honorable Executive Secretary Paquito N. Ochoa Jr. And the Honorable Secretary of Trade and Industry, Secretary Gregory Domingo, Secretary for National Development Authority, our National Planning Director, Dr. Balisacan. To deliver the welcome remarks, Executive Secretary Ochoa.
Morning, everyone. Your Excellencies, or the members of the Diplomatic Corps, the senior officials and delegates of the APEC member countries, my colleagues here, Greg Domingo and Secretary R.C. Balisacan, my co-workers in government, representatives from the APEC Business Advisory Council and the private sector, the APEC Regional Secretariat. A pleasant good morning to all of you, despite the storm, and welcome to the Philippines and the first leg of our country's hosting of the 2015 APEC. Please allow me to begin by enjoining everyone to join our people in prayer as our countrymen in the Visayas and Mindanao region and the Bicol region feeling the effects of Typhoon Ruby as of this moment. Our thoughts and prayers go to them and to the men and women who have been mobilized to ensure their safety. It was with this typhoon in mind that we decided last week to move the venue of this informal seniors officials meeting from the province of Albay, Metro Manila. We would have preferred to hold this meeting in the shadows of one of the country's most majestic sites, the Mayon volcano. But we believe it was more prudent for the local government of Albay, which is a province internationally recognized for its accomplishments in disaster risk reduction and management, to focus more on the preventive actions they would have done or needed to do to undertake the relief and rescue operations in the wake of the typhoon. Nonetheless, we thank Albay's Governor Joey Salceda, as well as the local government officials of Legazpi City for all the work they put to prepare for the ISOM. I am sure that had you seen the city and what they had in store for you, that you would have been very impressed. As they say in Bicol, Dios mabalos sa Indo Gabos, or thank you very much. Though there are dark skies overhead and the rest of the country, these stand in stark contrast to the bright prospects of APEC and its 21 days. This is due in part to the chairmanship of our previous host, the People's Republic of China. Under China's chairmanship, the APEC's relevance in the region has been advanced, as embodied in the 2014 APEC Leaders Declaration. We shall strive to build on these gains year. It has almost been 2 decades since we last hosted the APEC in 1996. We have come a long way since, and this is something that we hope to display in the coming months as we hold the various APEC meetings leading to the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in November of 2015. As our President, His Excellency Benigno Aquino III, announced last week, our theme for APEC 2015 is Building Inclusive Economies, Building a Better World. This theme was chosen this year's APEC toward making certain that the sustained growth of our economies will result in tangible benefits on the lives of our people. We are confident that with our country's remarkable turnaround in recent our story and our experiences can certainly enrich the discussions on this subject. The objective of this ISOM is to introduce the host's priorities for 2015. These priorities are designed to ensure continuity of past and ongoing work, promote balance and relevance to each economy's domestic and regional needs, and ensure sustainability of effort in achieving short, medium, and long-term goals. We believe that these priorities will help leap towards a sustained, inclusive, and resilient growth in Asia, and we hope to obtain your support in these strategic priorities. In this light, we encourage your active participation in the activities lined up for the next 2 days. To this end, excellent speakers and notable moderators have been invited to foster dynamic exchanges and social innovative ideas from all of you. In 2015, the Philippines seeks APEC deepening its role as a cornerstone for regional dialogue, cutting-edge innovation, and constructive engagement. We envision dynamic APEC economies that will embrace all sectors and stakeholders within their people-centered economic agenda. We also envision a progressive region both within and across economies, that collectively works together towards our common goals of shared prosperity and inclusive growth. The APEC, of course, is not all about work and serious discussions. We believe this is a great venue to build friendships and encourage camaraderie among individuals who play significant roles in their respective economies. We also encourage you to take advantage of our hosting this year to enjoy what our country has to offer. We hope to bring you to some of our splendid beaches and to show you some of our magnificent vistas during the succeeding meetings. But more importantly, we hope that you witness to our greatest resource, our people who are kind, hospitable, compassionate, and talented beyond measure. In ending, we wish you a fruitful, productive ISOM and an enjoyable stay in Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Thank you very much, and good day to you all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Executive Secretary Paquito Ochoa, our Economic Planning Minister, Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, APEC senior officials, distinguished speakers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, other members of the Philippine government. I'm glad that everyone is here this morning, given the news, a lot of news on the storm that's supposed to be coming. In fact, I issued a regulation banning this typhoon, but didn't listen to me. When the Philippines hosted the APEC in 1996, the leaders launched the Manila Action Plan for APEC, or MAPA. MAPA specified the first steps of an evolving process towards achieving the BOGOR goals of progressive and comprehensive trade and investment liberalization by 2010 for developed countries and by 2020 for developing countries. I shouldn't say countries, economies. Let me correct that. MAPA includes initiatives that address concerns on improving market access, both tariff and non-tariff measures, enhancing market access and services, providing an open investment regime, reducing the cost of doing business, building an open and efficient infrastructures, and strengthening economic and technical cooperation. In the recently concluded leaders' meeting in Beijing, the leaders endorsed an extensive array of measures to build on APEC's work on trade and investment liberalization and on facilitation and economic cooperation. The list of issues in this symposium reflects the breadth of the interest that we share in the APEC region. It also reminds us of how far APEC has come since the last time the Philippines hosted APEC in 1996. Hence, we are looking forward to hosting the meeting of ministers responsible for trade, MRT, APEC Women and the Economy, and the SME ministerial meeting, as well as other equally important sectoral ministerial meetings in the Philippines in 2015. As incoming chair, the Philippines welcomes your cooperation and support to strengthen APEC and to continue to promote it. It is to continue to promote it as a forum that provides practical, relevant, and results-oriented initiatives to fulfill our common goals of development, prosperity, and progress. I hope that the discussions in this symposium and informal meeting will provide the appropriate background for the 2015 theme of inclusive growth. While we will continue to look at issues such as FTAP, the Bali package of the WTO, Doha Round WTO, ITA, goods, for the chairmanship of the Philippines next year, in particular for the APEC 2015 MRT and SME ministerial meeting, we will put special emphasis on the SME agenda. Why is the SME agenda important? From our perspective, the SME agenda is very critical actually, not only to APEC, but to the forward movement of global trade in general. Because SMEs are one of the strongest voices now opposing global trade. And that is because they hardly feel the benefits of global trade. Many of the SMEs see the influx of goods and services into their own markets, but find it very cumbersome and difficult to take advantage of the free trade agreements because of the very cumbersome rules and procedures. SMEs actually are from my perspective, two different kinds. Actually, there are many kinds, but the two main ones would be the SMEs that are part of global value chains. And this has merited some discussion recently in many of the trade forums, including ASEAN and APEC. But there is also a more important part. Those are what we refer to in the Philippines as industries. These are the smaller SMEs that may include some micro enterprises. These are the small business people who have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 person type of operations that some of them produce very good quality products. They're mainly in food processing. They're also in handicrafts. They're also in some extent in furniture, and also in many of the production of smaller items. And these are the ones that we need the most. For the global SMEs, you would need a different intervention to help them out from the cottage industry SMEs. So I keep that in mind as we move forward in developing some action plans that we will want to do to help out the SMEs. We welcome the support of economies on initiatives that focus on trade facilitation for SMEs. It's really market access that's lacking for the most part. So we'd like to emphasize really the trade facilitation agenda for SMEs. This would involve upgrades in customs and also simplifying the rules of origin administration and establishment of institutional support systems for SMEs. We are counting on all senior officials to make APEC the incubator for active and dynamic SMEs and be enablers in providing SMEs wider access to opportunities for inclusive growth and their integration into the global value chain. In addition, hosting and chairing the 2015 APEC Women and the Economy will be a vital event for the Philippines as we welcome new landmark initiatives from the United States and Japan to further advance the women's economic empowerment agenda. The Philippines encourages all APEC fora to consider incorporating the gender perspective into their working group to foster synergies within and across the APEC region. In sum, I wish all of you a dynamic and enlightening discussion today as a first step towards producing results that will ensure the success of APEC 2015. We have set important visions for APEC, and the time for action starts now. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Executive Secretary Jojo Chua, Secretary Greg Domingo, other colleagues in government, delegates to this ISOM, members of the diplomatic community, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me also extend my warm greetings to all the APEC delegates to this symposium. Taking off from last week's APEC 2015 Philippines National Lounge led by President Benigno Aquino III, let me also reaffirm this country's commitment to our unified of building strong partnerships toward economic development. As has already been mentioned, it has been almost 2 decades since November 1996 when the Philippines last hosted this gathering. Since then, Asia-Pacific economies have so far sustained a relatively good level of growth. We're slowly but steadily recovering from the global financial crisis of 2007 and 2008. Over the next 2 years, growth in the region is expected to average at 3.8%. In particular, the Southeast Asian region has been identified as one of the world's bright spots. For APEC 2015, in light of our regional and national pursuit for inclusivity and our common desire to make growth sustainable, we have, as mentioned earlier by the APEC NOC Chair, Executive Secretary Ochoa Jr., selected the theme, Building Inclusive Economies, Building a Better World. Specifically, the Philippine vision for APEC 2015 is to sustain a prosperous and cohesive region that places inclusive development at the heart of economic integration in the Asia-Pacific. This symposium can help us further define what issues we need to address and opportunities we can take advantage of to guide APEC senior officials in drafting the roadmap for the free trade area of the Pacific. We have identified 4 priority areas for discussion, namely 1, enhancing regional integration, 2, mainstreaming small and medium enterprises in global and regional markets, 3, investing in human capital development, and 4, building sustainable and resilient economies. We believe that the advancement of economic integration in the Asia-Pacific region will further strengthen and facilitate trade and investment among APEC member economies. However, the slow recovery from the global financial crisis and the projected sluggish growth of world trade over the next 2 years, and perhaps beyond, are expected to present headwinds to these discussions. While this means that many economies may have to look inward to promote economic growth, we need to remain resolute in our efforts towards greater economic integration, as this provides a more robust channel to growth and development. In particular, building our previous strengths, we are one with the other APEC economies, exploiting initiatives to further enhance the supply chain and identify best practices to expand economic connectivity through services, such as reaching the target of 25% reduction in the cost of doing business. The second APEC 2015 priority is the mainstreaming of MSEs in the regional and global markets. Currently, SMEs constitute more than 90% of businesses in the developing APEC economies. Focusing on initiatives to support this sector will have immense multiplier effects in terms of employment generation, product innovation through establishment of new industries, and countryside development by means of introducing and spreading new business opportunities. For MSEs to take part in the regional and global value chains, we need to identify measures that will provide an open and transparent business environment that will serve as seedbed for innovation and entrepreneurship. We want the sector to be able to participate in the global chain by providing them easier access to finance, markets, and innovation. Through this, we aim to increase the SME's profits along with their capacity to supply international partners with products that are at par with world standards. Recognizing the significant impact of enhancing human capital to poverty reduction and economic growth, another priority we have set for 2015 is investing in human capital development. As economies and regions become more interconnected, the needs of constantly innovating and dynamic industry and services sectors require a better equipped and more competitive labor force. To address these evolving requirements, we have identified interventions to implement educational reforms at both the primary and secondary levels, align education and training programs with the requirements set by industries, emphasize the importance of the public and private sectors and the academe in human capital development, empower women and vulnerable groups, trainings for skills upgrading that can reduce job worker mismatches. Moreover, we cannot underestimate the importance of building sustainable and resilient communities to maintain the growth we have been experiencing in recent years. The Philippines is particularly prone to natural hazards, and this very meeting is taking place amidst the strongest tropical cyclone to ever make landfall this year. The other economies in the region have, in varying degrees, their own share of risk to natural hazards. As the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's fifth assessment report of 2013 shows, the occurrence of extreme weather and climate events is actually becoming more extreme, more frequent, and intense. For this reason, we are constantly challenged to instigate effective measures for disaster risk reduction and management. We hope that APEC will tackle the interventions to mitigate the effects of climate change and push for enhanced DRRM. Specifically, the cooperation could discuss ensuring food security, supporting livelihood resilience, promoting green technology, and protecting the environment, among other concerns. We know that this priority will strike a chord because we all want our children and our children's children not only to enjoy a more prosperous life, but a cleaner and greener environment that will sustain generations to come. Recognize the importance of addressing behind the borders issues relevant to economic growth and development, such as structural reforms. Even as recent periods of economic growth in the region have been impressive by international standards, sustainability is a persistent concern. We need to boldly and decisively address current and emerging structural issues, such as rapidly changing demographics, burgeoning skills mismatch in the labor market, regulatory and policy constraints to innovations, impediments to growth of efficient and livable cities, and increasing development divides across landscapes. As developing economies integrate with the rest of the region, and as economies mature into being middle-income countries and then advance, structural changes take place. To be sure, there are a lot of gainers, but there will be some who are bound to be hurt in the transition. Specifically, micro and small businesses, rural-based industries, agriculture, and groups would have to confront new challenges. And recognizing our end goal, which is inclusive development, these challenges and the hurdles they face need to be discussed and adequately addressed. These issues were already acknowledged in 2008 under the APEC New Strategy for Structural Reform. Back then, we resolved to undertake the necessary reforms to address the challenges faced by women and vulnerable populations, to promote SME development and labor market opportunities, to ensure a more open, transparent, and competitive markets and better functioning and effectively regulated financial markets, implement effective and fiscal sustainability or net programs. This year, a ministerial meeting on structural reform will take place for the second time since 2008. During this meeting, each APEC economy will take stock and report on the progress of work in the priority areas identified. More importantly, the meeting will draw up a post-2015 structural reform agenda, building on previous gains, but considering as well the need for new strategies to ensure that the economic benefits achieved because of the enhanced economic integration will redound to better well-being for all. I hope that this symposium will serve as a venue for breakthrough discussions on how our economies can enforce initiatives that will push for priorities. The Philippines is optimistic that with your support, our vision of inclusivity will come to fruition. May the APEC continue to be a bridge for development in the Asia-Pacific region and the world. Let us remain solid in our aspiration to strengthen our community and work together to achieve economic growth and prosperity for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretaries Ochoa, Domingo, and Balisacan. At this point, we would like to give a few reminders before we begin our symposium proper. Each session will be facilitated by a moderator. of each session, speakers will be reminded of their delivery time to allow sufficient Q&A. Also, we'd like to inform delegates and guests that only written questions will be entertained throughout the sessions. Sheets of paper have been provided for our participants to write your questions on the current topic, and these will be collected after each speaker has finished. Please feel free to call the attention of our conference officers to submit your questions. Similar questions shall be synthesized and consolidated to effectively manage our time per session. Thank you. For the first session, 21st Century Megatrends and Challenges, our speakers are provided ample time for delivery, and 15 minutes shall be allotted for the Q&A.